Hello, I am AARP Senior Vice President Bill Walsh, and I want to welcome you to the latest edition of our program, Real Answers Right Now from AARP. Today we'll focus on navigating economic uncertainty, what it means for you, your wallet, and your future. Throughout the program, we'll hear from well-known personal finance journalist Jean Chatzky, who will share valuable guidance on managing your money in the face of today's economic volatility. We'll also be joined by two fraud prevention experts who will help address the latest scams that you need to know about. And as usual, we'll answer your questions live. Before we begin, if you'd like to hear this telephone town hall in Spanish, press *0 on your telephone keypad now.
Si usted desea escuchar en español, presione *0 en su teléfono ahora.
AARP, a non-profit, non-partisan membership organization, has been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans for more than 65 years. Through events like this, AARP continues to provide information and resources to help older adults and those caring for them. A quick note to our listeners, this program is being offered for educational insights only. For personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified financial professional. Economic volatility these days is making a lot of Americans anxious. Prices for everyday purchases like groceries and medicine are going up. Many Americans are starting to wonder if they'll have enough for retirement, if they'll need to work longer, or if they should put off that big purchase. At the same time, scam artists are following the news too. They're adjusting their tactics to take advantage of the uncertainty, and they're finding devious new ways to separate consumers from their money. In today's edition of Real Answers Right Now from AARP, we'll seek answers from experts to make sense of this uncertainty. Our guests include personal finance journalist and best-selling author Jean Chatzky and two experts on fraud prevention, AARP volunteers Karen Morgan and Dan Mall, who will share practical insights and answer your questions live. For those of you joining us on the phone, if you'd like to ask a question, press *3 on your telephone keypad at any time to be connected with an AARP staff member who will note your name and question and place you in a queue to ask that question live. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, you can post your question in the comments. Hello, if you're just joining, I'm Bill Walsh with AARP, and I want to welcome you to the latest installment of Real Answers Right Now from AARP. Today we're addressing how to navigate financial uncertainty and protect your financial future in the face of proliferating fraud. To ask your question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad, or you can drop it into the comments section on Facebook or YouTube. Now I'd like to welcome our guest. Jean Chatzky is a personal finance journalist, best-selling author, and CEO of HerMoney.com. For years, she's helped people make smart decisions about saving, spending, and planning for the future. Welcome back to our program, Jean.
Thanks so much, Bill. Glad to be here.
All right, we're glad to have you. I'd also like to welcome Karen Morgan. Karen is an executive council member with AARP Maryland. She began her career as a legislative analyst and went on to shape public policy on civil rights, criminal justice, and banking regulation for the Maryland General Assembly. Her volunteer focus is on protecting older adults from fraud and financial abuse. Welcome to the program, Karen.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right. And finally, Dan Mall. Dan is a Fraud Watch Network helpline volunteer with decades-long career as a registered investment advisor. Dan also serves as a guardian ad litem, advocating for the best interests of children in the legal system. Welcome to the program, Dan.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for having me on.
All right. All right. Thanks for being here, and thanks to all of our experts. Let's dive right in. Jean Chatzky. Jean, with rising cost and recent economic volatility, older adults are worried they won't have enough money. And according to the Global Atlantic 2025 Retirement Insights Survey, 67% of retirees worry their savings won't last their lifetime. Are they right to be concerned?
I certainly understand the concern with longer lives these days, with the increase in longevity. Of course, it's very easy to get frightened that your money is going to run out before you run out of time. But very interestingly, that's not what we're seeing from the data. We're seeing that older retirees are actually driving the economy right now. They don't have the same constraints on their spending that people who are younger, who are still paying mortgages in some cases, putting kids through college in some cases, still in the workforce, they don't have those same constraints. And so they're spending as if there's been no change. The other thing that I think is really interesting, an organization called EBRI, which is the Employee Benefits Research Institute, does a survey of retirement confidence every year. And one thing we see year after year is that people who are not retired yet are a lot more worried about their finances than people who are already retired. Those who are already experiencing it show a lot more confidence. And this year, the confidence of those retirees popped by 4 percentage points, which is really significant. So despite the fears in the system, I'm optimistic.
That's interesting. Given the financial volatility, that's a little bit of a surprise, but it depends, I suppose, on when the survey was done. I wonder if, given that volatility, now is the right time to speak with a financial professional to consider more conservative strategies to protect your money. And what options do people have if they can't afford a financial advisor? Are there any things? I was going to say, are there any things people should just simply avoid?
I think it's always a good time if you're feeling at odds to consult a financial professional. But I'm a little worried in the question about this idea of more conservative strategies. As we were just talking about, we're living longer. Every year, longevity has been going up by about a year per decade. And what that means is that retirement can last 20 years, 30 years, even more. Every person needs to have some money working in stocks, in the market, invested to protect against inflation and taxes. That is just needed for growth. Now, it should be a smaller amount of money as you age, but it shouldn't be zero. And if you can't afford a financial advisor, the good news is that there are a lot of options available to you. The Foundation for Financial Planning offers pro bono financial planning services. AARP has a relationship with them. Savvy Ladies is an organization that offers pro bono financial planning for women. Since 9/11, the Financial Planning Association has also offered pro bono services. And if you're still in the workforce, I'd say the first place that you might want to start is just going through your workplace retirement plan, because in many, many cases, you're going to have the option to speak with a financial advisor through that channel for no money at all.
Okay, those are some great resources, Jean. Let me just repeat them for our listeners. The Foundation for Financial Planning. You also mentioned Savvy Ladies and the Financial Planning Association all have free financial planning resources for consumers. Jean, let's shift gears to talk about Social Security. AARP generally urges people to wait to claim benefits, if they can, until their full retirement age. Is now a time to reconsider when to claim those benefits?
I would say it's not, but it is happening. We are seeing more Americans who are anxious about the future of Social Security claiming their benefits earlier than they planned, and that's because of fear in the system. But I would caution against this unless you absolutely need the money. And if you need the money, you should take your Social Security. But if you don't need it for your needs rather than your wants, there is a big benefit to waiting to take Social Security. Benefits go up by about an average of 8% a year for every year that you wait from age 62 to age 70. And if you live to be at least 80, waiting will pay off.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's talk a little bit more about Social Security. Can you explain what a My Social Security account is and why it's needed? Are any services still available by phone?
Sure. So a My Social Security account, it's a free online secure account that is offered by the Social Security Administration. And what it does is allow you to manage your Social Security information online. You can access your statements, you can check your earnings history, you can estimate your future benefits, you can perform other online sources, but it is not mandatory. That's a really important point. If you don't have one of these online accounts, you can still contact the Social Security Administration by phone, by mail, by fax, or even in person. So I want people to understand they still have options.
Okay, and it sounds like then they're at no risk of losing services or payments if they don't use a computer or don't have a My Social Security account. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. You are not at risk of losing your services. You're not at risk of losing your payments. The Social Security Administration is trying to make the point that it can be, if you're comfortable with a computer, easier to manage your account this way. It can be convenient if you're comfortable to doing it this way. But if you're not, you can still use the phone, you can still use the mail, you can still fax.
Great. Okay, well, let me bring Karen and Dan into the conversation. As the Social Security Administration shifts to more online support through My Social Security accounts, scammers are seeing an opportunity, I think. Karen, what Social Security-related scams are you seeing, and what should consumers know?
Well, what we're seeing is what scammers always do, which is they stoke fear. They want you to panic, and they want you to be afraid that your benefits are going to be taken away, implying that this is a gift that could just be taken at any moment. So what AARP's been doing is emphasizing that Social Security is something that everyone has earned. Everyone that's paid into the trust fund has earned that, and so that's theirs. And they are free to access that in the ways that Jean outlined just a minute ago. In terms of scams, these criminals, and that's what they are, will tell you that you need a new Social Security number, or that their Social Security cards now have embedded security, so you need a new one of those. Or another one is you need to verify your ID because the government needs to make sure that you're you, so you need to give me all of your personal information. Or even worse yet, let me tell you what I know, and you just tell me yes or no. And the target doesn't realize that it's unfortunately very easy for criminals to gather a dossier that has personal information about literally anyone these days.
Dan,
so they need to be careful about that.
Dan, what have you been seeing?
Well, I'd like to repeat that. Yeah, scammers have gotten every bit of your information. And so trying to convince you that they're legitimate by repeating your Social Security number, your account information, transactions, does not mean that it's a legitimate caller. All of this stuff, anytime you get contacted and you're not expecting it, it needs to be verified independently. These people are so good at what they do.
Yep. Let's get into that more in a moment. As a reminder to our listeners, if you'd like to ask a question to one of our experts, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any point to get in a queue to ask that question live. Dan and Karen, what should someone do if they receive an email claiming to be from the Social Security Administration? Is there a way to determine if it's legitimate? Dan, why don't you go first?
Yes, there is. Social Security does send emails out, but it's not just random. It'll be after talking with them, after doing something online. all of their emails will have a .ssa.gov with a /. And it's real easy to overlook email addresses, but we've been told that you need to pay attention to that because if something seems funny about it, it might be. You need to be careful.
Yeah. Karen?
Yeah. Well, here's where having an online My Social Security account can actually come in very handy, because if the real Social Security Administration has sent out a legitimate email, you can go into your My Social Security account and see that communication. So that would be a way to independently verify that the Social Security Administration is actually communicating with you. And it's usually in response to something that you've initiated. They don't just email you out of the blue to tell you about a problem with your account. An email like that should automatically be regarded as suspect.
Yeah. Okay, great. Now, Social Security aside, how else do scammers exploit economic uncertainty? What other scams should older adults be on the lookout for, and where can they turn for help? Karen?
Well, what they do is, like I said earlier, they stoke fear, panic, uncertainty, doubt. That is what they ply their trade in. And so an earlier question about whether investments should be more conservative, these scammers have no problem calling people and saying, well, you need to move your investments into a more secure account or into gold or into some sort of precious metal or into some other investment that gives you something tangible. And I mean, these investments are as risky as anything else, but they never tell you that part. But they will make you afraid that keeping your money in a bank that's not safe, and having those typical investments, that's not safe. You need to do something else. So put it with me and I'll help you. And they will help steal your money. That's what they want to do.
Well, they know just what to say, don't they? Dan, can you talk a little bit about where people can turn for help?
Well, clearly, AARP's Fraud Watch Network is available to help people understand if they've been scammed, if there's whatever's going on. 877-908-3360. There are so many scams out there. To try to understand each and every one, it would take forever. I think bottom line is, as soon as money's involved, personal information, and especially gift cards or crypto, it's a scam. Verify it independently.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dan, I know you're a volunteer with the Fraud Watch Network helpline. Can you tell me a little bit about the helpline and your experiences answering the phone?
Yeah. People call in who have been victims of a scam or who know people, sometimes it's family members, wanting help. And we return those calls and help them understand what's going on, help them unwind it, give them resources to protect their identity, and assure them that whenever they need it. A lot of it is just emotional support, and it's hard for people to tell anyone because it's embarrassing and they're ashamed. We are a resource that they can turn to without having to worry about that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's a free resource available to anyone, ARP members, non-members, whoever needs that help.
Yes.
It's available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the number is 877-908-3360. If you're concerned that you've been scammed, feel free to reach out to the Fraud Watch Network helpline. You may talk to Dan or one of our other experts who will help field your call and hear your concerns. Thanks very much to our experts. Now it's time to get some listener questions. To our listeners, we're going to take your questions for Jean Chatzky, Karen Morgan, and Dan Mall. As a reminder, press *3 at any time on your telephone keypad. You'll be connected with an AARP staff member to share your question live. A quick reminder, this program is being offered for educational insights only. For personalized guidance, please consult a qualified financial professional. Now I'd like to bring in my AARP colleague, Director Jamie Lyle, to help facilitate your calls today. Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks, Bill. I'm happy to join you for this important conversation.
Fantastic. Who do we have first?
We have a question from an online listener from YouTube.
Okay.
Annette asks, why is there so much talk lately about a Roth IRA conversion, and what is it really?
Jean Chatzky, can you field that one?
Sure, and let me take it sort of backwards. A Roth IRA conversion is where you take money out of a traditional IRA, you pay the taxes on it, and you move it to a Roth IRA. And that's because a traditional IRA is an account where you contribute pre-tax money. It grows tax deferred. When you pull the money out in retirement, then you pay the taxes. A Roth is kind of the opposite. You put in money on which you've already paid taxes. The money grows tax-free, and when you pull it out in retirement, no additional taxes are owed. People are talking about Roth conversions right now because there is some fear in the country that taxes could go up. And if taxes were to go up down the road to the point when you hit retirement and you are pulling money out of your retirement accounts when income taxes are at a higher rate than they are now, you could owe more money than you anticipated. The other time that people often talk a lot about Roth conversions is when the stock market has taken a bit of a dip, because then you're able to convert more shares for fewer tax dollars. But I hope that helps.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Jamie, let's take another call.
Yes, our next question is from Diane in Georgia. Diane, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, I've got savings outside of my Roth and outside of my 401k. And I was wondering what you thought about CDs versus Treasuries.
Jean, do you have an opinion on that?
Sure. It really depends on how much flexibility you need with that money. When you buy CDs versus Treasuries, both are fixed income products. You are essentially saying that you are going to lock your money up for a certain period of time, a 6-month CD, a 1-year Treasury. It's a little bit easier to trade the Treasuries if you haven't hit the end of your time period. When you try to get your money out of a CD before you hit the end of your agreed upon time period, there's a penalty of a few months interest. But in general, if you're comparing sort of like to like time periods, it's a bit of a wash these days. You'll want to look at the interest rates of both, which you can easily do online, and see where you're able to get the better deal at this possible moment.
Okay. Jean, thank you so much. Jamie, let's take another call.
Yes, our next question is from Humberto from Washington State. Humberto, you're alive.
Thank you. Thank you for this phone chat. Anyway, my question is specifically when you say, verify who's contacting you, i.e. email, telephone calls, mail, how specifically do we go about verifying that to avoid scammers?
Sure. Karen Morgan, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Sure. That can be confusing. There are some things you can do with email. You can hover your mouse over the email address to see literally where it's coming from. And if it's a foreign domain, it'll have like letters after the spoofed address that could indicate that it's a problem. With text, it's hard to verify unless you know that, especially if you don't recognize that number. I would look at the subject matter or the person who's supposedly contacting you and then go to maybe a different phone or look up the website on the computer and verify that way whether that person could possibly be contacting you and whether they have a legitimate reason for contacting you. And the same thing with phone calls. It's so trivially easy to spoof phone calls these days that even if it's a phone number that you recognize, I wouldn't assume that that's that person that you think belongs to that number. It could still be a scammer who's just co-opted that number. So even if it's somebody I recognize, what I personally do is I let them call me back, and then I call them, which is crazy, but that's how I feel safe these days.
Yeah, Dan, did you want to offer anything there? I have seen an ad campaign for quite some time now. I think it's from the banking industry saying banks won't call you. I guess is that one industry you can take off your list? Are there other tips and tricks for spotting scams through email or texts?
Well, not necessarily, because every caller IDs can show your bank or the power company or whoever, and it can be spoofed. My advice would be, if you didn't anticipate the contact, whether it's an email, a phone call, or a text, if you didn't initiate something to generate that, assume that it's a scam and independently verify it. The internet can be a real resource for verifying things. Type in Puget Power scams and see what's been going on. Type in the name of the company to see if they've been spoofed and are offering a real job. The reviews online will often give away what's happening in the scam world.
Okay, thanks very much. Jamie, let's go back to our phone lines.
Yes, our next question is from Rosina in California. Rosina, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. What I wanted to know on this scam, what is the latest scam that is going? Because I get a lot of calls, and they seem, if you block them, they seem to call again with another number. So what is the latest scam? Can you tell me that?
Dan, do you want to take a shot at this? I know you answer the phone lines at the helpline. What are you hearing most recently?
Well, anything involving crypto is pretty popular. The romance scams, getting connected with somebody who seems like your friend. There are so many of them. I don't know that there's one most popular. That's difficult to say. You just have to. I would suggest the thing is, as we said earlier, don't answer your phone if you don't recognize the number, because answering the phone tells the scammers that this is a live number, and they will continue to try that. And sooner or later, they're going to hook you. There is a scam for everyone.
And there's nothing wrong with calling. If you don't recognize the number and not answering it, I think the impulse for most of us is just to pick up the phone, right? But there's nothing wrong with listening to the message and calling back. If it's legit, then you're probably on solid ground. Jamie, let's take another call.
Yes, our next question comes from Harvey from the state of Maryland. Harvey, you are live.
Yeah, I attempted to file my 2023 and 2024 tax returns that were rejected by TurboTax. I had to file them by mail, and it turns out somebody had already filed tax returns using my Social Security number.
Oh, my.
And trying to resolve that is an absolute nightmare. The IRS, they have some of the most incompetent people in the world. You never get you get a phone number, but it's a recorded message. You can't get any dialogue with them. But now it turns out they have a fraud number now, which I've contacted, and I'll see if that accelerates the resolution any earlier. But moving on to 2025, I have to get some sort of number to use when I file my return.
Harvey, that sounds awful. Do you have a question for our panel on this? It sounds like he dropped off the line. Karen, I wonder if you have any advice for folks in protecting their tax information. That sounds like a terrible and lengthy issue Harvey had to deal with.
It is truly horrible, and I'm sorry that happened to him. One thing that you can do that I would recommend, whether you've been a victim of fraud or not, is to set up an IRS PIN. And you go through the ID.me website, which is sort of like an overall website that the government is setting up the federal government is setting up for a number of different sensitive accounts. One of them is the IRS, and you can apply for an IRS PIN. And the beauty of that is that when you file your taxes for the upcoming year, if that PIN is not included, then the IRS will automatically assume that somebody is fraudulently filing that return. So the PIN has to be there for the IRS to accept it, and you do not have to be a victim of fraud. I use this every year. I've used it for the last several years when I file my own tax returns.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Great advice. And thank you for all those questions. We're going to be taking more live questions shortly. But I also wanted to alert you to a special program we have going today. We're offering some individual assistance as it relates to Social Security. Former Regional Communications Director for the Social Security Administration, Steve Richardson, is standing by and answering your Social Security questions right now. If you want assistance with your Social Security question, please listen closely. If you're listening on to the program online, place your Social Security question into the comment section, but don't include any personal information, including your name or age or financial information. We'll get that to Steve, and we'll get you an answer. You can also send Steve an email at ssqa@aarp.org. That's ssqa@aarp.org. And that will also be routed to Steve, and he will answer your question as quickly as he can. Now, before we return to our conversation with personal finance expert Jean Chatzky and our two fraud prevention experts, let's take a moment and hear how AARP is fighting for you. To tell us more, we're joined by my AARP colleague, Director of Financial Security, Chad Mullen. Chad, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for being here. Chad, this year, Social Security turns 90 in August. Can Americans count on the program to reach its 100th or 125th anniversary?
Hey, Bill, that is exactly what we are fighting for. Social Security is a promise made to the American people, and it's one that absolutely must be kept. For 90 years, Social Security has done what it's meant to do. It's helped people retire with dignity and financial security after a lifetime of hard work. And we're hearing from people all across the nation and across the political spectrum. And they tell us they want Social Security to do what it is supposed to do, make payments on time and provide assistance when help is needed. Many acknowledge the president's commitment to protect Social Security, and they all say the same thing: protect what we've earned, protect what we've paid into, protect what we saved for our whole lives. But folks who paid into Social Security, they're counting on it to be there when they retire, and our top priority is to make sure that it is.
Now, as I said, Social Security is turning 90, celebrating an anniversary in August. What is AARP doing to recognize this milestone?
You know, for the next 2 months leading up to the 90th anniversary, we're celebrating just how great the program is as it turns 90 on August 14th. We're going to put a spotlight on how important it is to everyone in America. We're holding events all across the country. We're holding ones just like this one to bring people together and hear directly from folks about their experience with Social Security. And we've already held more than 30 events nationwide, and we're inviting members of Congress to join us. And we'll be emphasizing the impact Social Security makes on people's lives, how we've earned it through hard work and every paycheck, and we are focused on making sure Social Security remains strong today and we'll use every moment of the next 60 days to make that case.
All right, Chad, what is AARP hearing from its members and the broader 50-plus community about Social Security?
No, thank you for that question. We hear from millions of Americans 50 and older, and Social Security is something they care deeply about. It really is the number one issue year after year. The message we hear again and again is we've paid in our whole lives. We've earned this. They see Social Security as a commitment they kept. They held up their end of the bargain by showing up, working hard, and paying in with every paycheck so that they can retire with dignity. And more than that, they want the future generations to have that same peace of mind. And that's true across the political spectrum. It isn't a partisan issue at all.
All right. What does AARP want lawmakers to know?
We want lawmakers to understand that Social Security is more than a number. It's a lifeline. This is money Americans have earned every paycheck, every year, over a lifetime of work. No one's asking for favors. They expect the help they need and the payments they were promised. So when talk starts about changing access to how you can get a hold of information or contact the Social Security Administration, we're trying to use Social Security as some sort of bargaining chip in a negotiation. AARP is going to push back. All right. Bottom line, AARP is here to make sure lawmakers know that protecting Social Security isn't just good policy, it's good politics, because voters across this country, from conservatives to liberals, expect them to stand up and defend it.
Okay, Chad. Now, how can folks share their concerns and frustrations if they have any?
Yes, if you're frustrated, you're not alone, and you're not powerless either. One voice might be easy to ignore, but when millions of us speak up, Congress and the Social Security Administration, well, they pay attention. And town halls matter. So if you're a member of Congress holds one, go there, meet them, shake their hand, and ask them tough questions and tell them about your experience. Share your story. If they have a local office, swing by. Bring them a letter or a note. You'll be amazed what a handwritten note will do. Call them. Send them an email. Nothing has to be fancy. Just tell them what's not working and your experience. It really makes a difference. And let them know how important Social Security is to you and why it matters to you and your family. And if you're ready to speak up for Social Security and to add your name and pledge to be part of this fight right now, you can press 1 on your telephone keypad to say, we earn our Social Security through every paycheck and deserve every penny and great customer service.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chad. And again, AARP is recognizing Social Security's 90th anniversary with a pledge to ensure its continued strength and reliability for current and future generations. Please press 1 on your telephone keypad to add your name right now. That is 1 on your telephone keypad to pledge your support right now. We are going to turn back to our experts in just a moment, but we've had a number of requests to repeat some information about AARP's Fraud Watch Network helpline. The toll-free number is 877-908-3360. That's 877-908-3360. It's staffed Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's a free resource to anyone, member or non-member, and it's staffed by trained fraud specialists and volunteers. You can talk to them, report fraud, understand what's just happened, and get resources to ensure that it doesn't happen again. All right, let's return to our experts, Jean Chatzky, Karen Morgan, and Dan Mall. Remember, if you'd like to ask a question, press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time. Jean, what should ordinary Americans be doing in the face of on and off tariffs? Are there specific areas, groceries, electronics, clothing, etc., that will see larger increases? And is now the time to stock up on specific goods?
Unfortunately, it's pretty impossible to avoid all tariff-related price hikes when you're in the stores these days. But there are some areas that are seeing larger increases. Grocery prices are particularly affected. Those fresh produce prices are affected more on products like bananas because we just don't grow bananas in the United States. So we have to import all of them. We're also seeing clothing prices expected because 98% of the clothing that we sell or that we buy in the United States is imported. Now, that said, I wouldn't stock up on things right now, particularly things like food, because so much of the food that we eat is perishable. You don't want to just throw money away because you're not going to be able to eat what you buy. The exception to that would be if you are or know that you're going to be in the market for a car this year, I probably would buy sooner rather than later. I would look for a car that's already on a dealer's lot. And I would use this as an opportunity to really put all my smart shopping strategies to use. So if you are an expert couponer, this is the time to coupon. If you like shopping consignment or secondhand, I love shopping consignment, this is the time to do that because those things already exist here.
All right. Now, will tariffs affect prescription drugs or healthcare costs, do you expect, Jean?
Yeah, we're going to see that. We're already seeing that as well. And it's not that the prescription drugs themselves are subject to tariffs. It's that the ingredients that go into making those prescription drugs are subject to tariffs because they come in many cases from other countries. The budget lab at Yale University estimates that the price for basic pharmaceuticals is going to go up by about 5% due to tariffs. And we'll see it as well in other healthcare costs, things like equipment and gloves and gowns and syringes that hospitals and doctors' offices buy on a regular basis will be tariffed. So will medical devices and supplies. But I think we all know whether we're shopping for a medical procedure or whether we're shopping for a prescription, we don't just take the first price these days. We make sure that we've shopped around, that we've used any discount cards that we carry in our wallet so that we are getting the best price that's available to us.
Okay. Jean, credit cards and mortgages, home equity lines of credit, auto loans, they're all seeing sharp increases in delinquencies. And more Americans are turning to buy now, pay later loans for groceries, according to an April report from Lending Tree. Does the surge in delinquencies in buy now, pay later loans necessitate or signal larger concerns in the economy?
I think it does, because it's not just groceries that people are putting on these buy now, pay later loans. It's things like electricity and heat and internet and streaming services. And nearly a quarter of all the buy now, pay later users made a late payment last year. That was up a good deal from 2023. So I do think that they are a sign of some weakness in the economy, which is not to say that they're always a bad deal. The argument against credit cards and for these buy now, pay later products is that if you put something on a credit card, you got to start paying interest on it in a month. With products like these, sometimes the time horizon is a little bit longer. But you have to manage them if you're going to use them really, really carefully, because if you don't pay them off in the time in which you're allotted, you're going to pay a lot in interest.
That's great advice. Now, older Americans are carrying more debt than ever, according to the Federal Reserve, a lot more. The average amount of debt for adults 65 and older has sharply increased over the past 2 decades. Offers to erase debt or consolidate debt for free are everywhere. Are they reputable or are these scams? And what is the real cost of these services? What do consumers need to know? Jean, do you want to start there, and maybe Karen and Dan can get in on that as well?
Sure. So I would say if they say that they're free, if they promise that it's going to be easy, anything that sounds like it's too good to be true in this world of getting rid of debt, getting out of debt, consolidating debt, it is probably a scam. And even if it's not a scam, it may end up costing you a lot of money. So I would be very, very careful. If you are feeling the weight of too much debt, the place that I would point you to is a not-for-profit credit counselor. These are folks that have ways to lower the interest rates on the debt that you're carrying that are not scams. It's not a quick or easy fix, but it does work if you stick with the process, and it can save you a lot of money.
Any particular resources there, Jean, you have in mind?
Sure. The website for the not-for-profit organization is nfcc.org. It's the National Foundation for Credit Counseling.
Okay, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, nfcc.org. They also have a toll-free number, 800-388-2227. Karen or Dan, did you have anything you wanted to say on this?
I'd love to jump in just to say, something that people may not be aware of is that when you're looking at your credit, it's important to check your credit report. And if you go to annualcreditreport.com and make sure it's annualcreditreport.com, many people don't know that you can check your credit reports from the three major credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, once a week for free. It used to be once every quarter. It has since changed to once a week. That's how often you can check if you want to. And if you've got a credit counseling service that is discouraging you from checking your credit reports, that's a huge red flag. Also, a service that offers to get you an 800, FICO score, even though you have a mountain of debt that you're trying to pay off, that's a red flag. They're practically offering magic, and they're peddling snake oil, which that's what they do.
How can you distinguish reputable credit counseling from the shady players? Dan, do you have some thoughts on that?
Well, again, online reviews are a good way, the Better Business Bureau, but I'd have to echo what Karen and Jean have said. Going through the National Foundation for Credit Counseling to get somebody who's been vetted and knows what they're doing and can help you.
Okay. And Karen also mentioned checking your credit report for free at the website annualcreditreport.com. There's been a surge in employment-related scams in recent months. Why is this, and what should people look for? What clues are there? Karen?
Well, the surge is because people are afraid about either losing their jobs, or they know people who've lost their jobs. They're afraid it's going to happen to them, or they just want more security. And again, scammers know this. Scammers know this because they are master emotional manipulators, and they want you to be afraid and to act without thinking. So they will tell you anything that they think will get you to click on that link or to engage with them. And they will say things that are very seductive, like, you don't need a lot of experience, but we're offering high salaries, or you can work from home, or all you need to do is just put these packages together, and it's a low-stress job, but, it pays a lot of money. It'll be secure. And all lies. Those are all lies. That doesn't exist. But that's what they will tell you, and they're hoping to, like I said, to entice you. That's what they want to do.
Dan, did you want to offer any comments on that one?
So the idea of working online part-time, getting great money, it kind of triggers that greed emotion, and as soon as the emotion is triggered, logic and intellect go out the window. If it sounds too good to be true, and yeah, it is. But the other thing with these job scams is no one should ever have to pay anything to get a job or for the tasks that they're assigned, and certainly should not give away personal financial information up front. Ultimately, if it's a legitimate job and you can check with the company that supposedly is offering that position, but ultimately they're going to be asking for money, and that's the scam.
All right. That's how it always ends, right? Well, let's go back to our phone lines and hear from our listeners. Jamie, who do we have up next?
Yes, we have one of our questions comes from Maureen listening via Facebook, and she asks, is there a way to grow my money if my only income is from Social Security without the stock market?
Jean?
I would point you to a high-yield savings account. Savings accounts come in lots of different varieties with lots of different interest rates. And a basic bank savings account is going to pay you well under 1% interest. But a high-yield savings account is going to pay you up to 4 times that amount. We're seeing rates of 4%, sometimes a little bit higher. And these accounts come with the same FDIC protection as the savings accounts that you typically use. They're bank savings accounts. So if you don't want to take risk in the stock market, I hear what you're saying. You want to protect what you have, and that's a very, very good impulse. Look to a high-yield savings account. You can go on a website like bankrate.com, and you can just search for the best high-yield savings accounts going at any point in time, and it'll point you in the right direction.
Okay. Jamie, let's take another question.
Yes, our next question comes from Estelle in Pennsylvania. Estelle, you're alive.
Go ahead, Estelle. I think we may have lost her, Jamie. Do we have anyone?
Okay.
Let's take the next caller.
Yes. So our next question comes from Lawrence on Facebook, and he asks, is there a requirement in length of time that is required with a Roth before you can withdraw your next tax-free or your money tax-free?
Okay. Jean?
Yes, it's 5 years.
Okay. Quick and easy. Let's take another question.
Yes. So we have Kimberly from California. Kimberly, you are live to answer your question. Kimberly?
Yes. I'm 68 and my husband is 81 and we're living on Social Security, and he's talking about maybe getting a reverse mortgage, and I was wondering pros and cons and the difference in our age group if it would be a good thing. We do have we've got a $400,000 mortgage, but we've got about $1.4 million in equity in the house.
Jean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think a reverse mortgage can work in some situations, particularly for people who want to stay in the house for a considerable period of time. This is not something that you want to go into if you think that you're going to want to move in short order. But if you're looking to access some of the wealth that you've got in your home, and the truth is, for many, many baby boomers in particular, much of their wealth is tied up in their home. This can be an option. The nice thing about reverse mortgages is that if you want to take them out, you have to go through a housing counseling process where you sit down with a housing counselor. They explain the product to you, soup to nuts, in all its various permutations. They explain the fee structure, because these aren't necessarily inexpensive. And then, and only then, can you make the decision about whether you want to go forward. So I would say go through the counseling process. See if you think that this makes sense for you in this situation. The other alternative that people turn to, especially when they've got such big equity in their homes, although it's hard in a tight housing market, is to think about downsizing. To think about, could we live somewhere less expensive, sell the pricey home, take some of the equity and use it to supplement our Social Security. But they're two very, very different scenarios, and so you're going to want to evaluate both.
Okay. Jamie, let's take another question.
Yes. Our next question comes from Mary Lou in Michigan. Mary Lou, you are live.
Hello, this is Mary Lou from Michigan. I would like to ask this question. Do you think AI will be a helpful tool to prevent scammers?
Karen, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. It can be. And I think those of us who are on the front lines are actively looking for ways to employ artificial intelligence to help us prevent scams. And we're also looking for ways to put cases together so that we can bring these scammers to justice. AARP has recently been part of an initiative called the National Elder Fraud Coordinating Commission, and we call it NEFC, and it comprises private sector and law enforcement looking at cases all over the country and even across international boundaries, because we regard fraud as transnational organized crime. That's how serious it is. And so we need to approach it seriously. And I think AI will hopefully be part of that solution.
Okay, Karen, thank you. Let's take another question, Jamie. Who do we have?
Our next question comes from Charlie in Texas. Charlie, you're live.
Hello. I was calling to ask about, I'm a senior and I'm also a widow, and I wanted to figure out how to protect the investments that I have with stocks and so forth. And I was wondering, would it be better to withdraw my money that I have invested and put it into a Roth? Would that be better in order to safeguard it?
Well, let's ask Jean Chatzky. Jean, lots of questions on Roth today.
A lot of questions on Roth today. And so a Roth is an account. It's like an IRA. It's like a brokerage account. It's a holding pen for your money. The safety of your money and the amount of risk that you take with your money is not dependent on the account that your money is in as much as it is on the investments that you put into that account. And so I would say, I don't know where your money is invested now, but this is a really good time if you're looking to perhaps lower your risk profile to have a conversation with a financial advisor, either one of the ones that you pay or one of the pro bono financial advisors that we mentioned a little bit earlier, because personal finance is personal. And if I were to say, do this without knowing anything about the real specifications of your life, I would be doing you a disservice. You need somebody who's going to look at your money and your goals and give you suggestions that are right for you. So, Bill, let me just repeat those sources. Once again, if people are looking for pro bono financial planning, the Foundation for Financial Planning is one place to go. Savvy Ladies is another. And the Financial Planning Association also offers pro bono financial planning advice. And if you go on their website, you'll find the pro bono resources under the advocacy tab.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Jamie, let's take another question.
Yes, our next question comes from Diane in New Jersey. Diane, you're alive.
Hi, thank you. I would ordinarily not consider this worth bringing up but I've been hearing about it for 2 years from friends who keep an eye on the dark web, and about our money all being recalled to change to some other system. And I've been concerned about it, and I'm now starting to get all these emails about it. And, of course, they're telling you that if you get their wealth protection guide, you can legally opt out and save your money, which is obviously BS. It's a scam, because anybody who wants you send you an email to invest your money is full of, donkey dust. But I'm wondering, if this is coming up, how will it affect us as retirees on Social Security?
Jean, do you want to weigh in on that? Is that something you've heard?
This is a new one on me, and I always feel like I hear about all this stuff. But I think this is, I think you're right on the nose when you realize that as soon as they ask you to get their guide, there is something incredibly fishy about this scenario. I wouldn't take it too seriously, and I would make sure that I don't open these emails.
There you go. Some good advice as we wind down our program. This has been a really informative discussion. Thank you so much, Jean, Karen, and Dan, for sharing your valuable insights and answering our questions. We truly appreciate you contributing to this important conversation. And thank you, our AARP members, volunteers, and listeners, for participating in this discussion today. AARP, a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization, has been working to promote the health and well-beings of older Americans for 65 years. All of the resources referenced today, including a recording of the Q&A event, can be found at aarp.org/conversation starting tomorrow, June 13th. Thank you and have a good day. This concludes our call.